Good morning, afternoon, or whatever time you're going to be watching this presentation. My name is Valerie Escamilla, and today I will be your presenter over presidential powers. And our two topics on this presentation are whether the president should be more divisive in times of threat and crisis, or if the president should be able to implement his or her policies in which they were elected. But that will be further debated between my fellow group partners. I will be giving you more of an introduction, and before I get started, I want to give you a quick little refresh on what Gallup polls are. So Gallup polls are essentially a sample or a survey of the public's opinion on a certain issue, which is important and both beneficial towards both the people and the government, because it helps give representation and of the public opinion. With that being said, a recent Gallup poll was conducted in February of 2025 and reported by Megan Bernanke. This recent poll showed that current President Trump's approval rating sits at a 45%. With that being said, it should be noted that what is most significant about this most recent Gallup poll is its large partisan division gap. Which is the largest history in modern day history, with it being an 89%. This report showed that only 4% of Democrats approve of President Trump's performance, while the other 93% is more of Republican approval. On top of this, President Trump's ratings on certain specific policies also vary, with immigration standing at its highest at a 46%, foreign affairs at a 44%, and the economy at a 42%. However, what Congress has noticed is a distinct rise in President Trump's approval since 2021, which was at a 17%, to now in 2025 being a 29%. This is believed to be because of Congress's current act on actually implementing and pushing Trump's new policies in government, which has sparked up a huge support from the Republican community. With all that being said, I'd like to let my group partner Celia take it from here to continue this debate. Thank you very much.
Hi guys, my name is Celia Donnelly, and today I will be defending the position that the President of the United States of America holds too much power. The 2 points discussed within this presentation will relate to the President's ability to dictate military action in times of crisis, and their ability to implement the policies mentioned throughout their campaign. In recent decades, the President has become an extremely influential political figure within and beyond our nation. Article 2 of the United States Constitution establishes the executive branch and lays out the duties and responsibilities of the President. Section 2 of this article explains his role as Commander-in-Chief and his ability to fill governmental positions. The President's power as Commander-in-Chief is largely unregulated due to already established guidelines stated within the Constitution and the pressure for governmental decision in tense situations. For example, at the beginning of the Civil War, Abraham Lincoln took measures to fund the Union while Congress was not in session. When questioned on the legality of his action, he admitted that he had acted beyond his authority. In relation to Lincoln's unethical decision, President Bush shut down all air travel in the United States after September 11, 2001. Both of these actions were taken without the authorization of Congress and were justified by the power granted within Article 2 of the Constitution. These two examples show the ease in which these presidents abused their granted powers and suddenly usurped Congress with little retribution. Though these measures were taken within times of crisis, they set an unconstitutional precedent and allow room for increased presidential power without congressional approval. Section 2 of Article 2 of the United States Constitution also establishes the President's ability to nominate or hire certain individuals to executive and judicial positions. Presidents tend to fill these political roles, with trusted acquaintances who can provide support and create beneficial rapport for political endeavors. They also have the ability to nominate Supreme Court justices in the off chance of one's absence. Though these appointments provide a cushion of party-based employees and ideals, the president is still required to sign or veto laws proposed by Congress. Many of these laws relate back to current issues and are extremely important to congressional leaders. If a law is vetoed by the president, it can create tension between the two entities. As previously mentioned, the president has the ability to ensure the Supreme Court is filled with justices that hold aligning beliefs. Presidents can sign executive orders that require no congressional approval, but may be challenged within the Supreme Court. These orders usually align with their campaign issues and are granted to be successful when put against a sympathetic court. In his 2016 term as president, Donald Trump nominated 3 Supreme Court judges, and within the first 2 weeks of his 2024 term, he has issued almost 40 executive orders. Though some have already been challenged in court, the 6-3 Republican majority shows the likeliness of their survival. Overall, the President of the United States holds an extreme amount of political power and influence that has already usurped the guidelines laid out within the Constitution and could soon prove detrimental to democracy. Thanks for listening to this side of the debate. Bye, y'all.
Hi again, everyone. I'm Carly, and for this week's debate, the position I'm taking is that the president does not have enough power. Keep in mind that I am taking this position that the office of the presidency, not any specific president, should have more power. I do not want to get into any debate about whether any specific president should have more or less power, or whether they were weak or strong. I am arguing that this country needs a strong, decisive leader in the presidency, and too often Congress slows presidential action down. First, let's take a look at the framers' overall intent in creating the presidency. Famously, in the Federalist No. 70, Alexander Hamilton argues that energy in the executive is a leading character in the definition of good government. It is essential to the protection of the community against foreign attacks. It is not less essential to the steady administration of the laws, to the protection of property against those irregular and high-handed combinations which sometimes interrupt the ordinary course of justice, to the security of liberty against the enterprises and assaults of ambition, of faction, and of anarchy. I think Hamilton lays out the need for a powerful, decisive president quite clearly. It is in the best interest of our country, particularly in times of crisis, to have an executive capable of acting in our best interest quickly. Hamilton goes on to say in Federalist 70 exactly why the president should be powerful. The ingredients which constitute safety in the Republican sense are first, a due dependence on the people, secondly, a due responsibility. This quote aligns perfectly with the 2 points I would like to address here. The first point I am making is this: we need the president to be decisive in times of crisis. I believe presidents should be able to respond when the country needs them. While being the commander-in-chief and having power of foreign affairs makes the president sound like they do a lot already, when it comes to crisis, a lot of times they don't have much to say, and it can be very hard for them to get anything done. For example, when Abraham Lincoln was president, while he had certain powers as a president, the Civil War broke out, and he didn't hesitate to broaden his powers and do as much as he possibly could, or even more than he was allowed to. As pointed out in Presidential Power Surges by Harvard Law Today, Lincoln called for 75,000 military volunteers after Confederates fired on Fort Sumter, and he later suspended habeas corpus, seemingly both congressional powers. Presidents such as Lincoln and Franklin D. Roosevelt have both proven that the president should be able to be more decisive and have more say in action when it comes to a crisis. These are 2 examples of presidents that had to push down the barriers and limits of their roles as presidents just to assist the country in time of need. Shows how they should be given more of that power in the first place. As Article 2 of the Constitution makes clear, the president has the right to have the flexibility to exercise their powers, which is the first reason why I'm arguing that the president should have more power. The second reason why I believe that the president should have more power is we, the citizens of the United States, deserve to have the president actively implement the policies they ran on for office in a decisive way. Otherwise, we can't hold them accountable for the policies. I believe it is important to many Americans that when we vote a president into office, that individual actually carries out the policies that they promise when running for office. The concept of the powers of the president versus the powers of the other branches is called checks and balances, but it doesn't always feel balanced. While the president has the power to veto a policy or law, Congress can override their veto with a 2/3 vote, and now it becomes law. And the judiciary branch has the power to decide that the president's laws or actions are unconstitutional. To me, this feels like the president has limited power to act on their policy goals, while the rest of the government has significant power to block them. It is too easy for Congress or the judicial branch to undermine the president's policy agenda. This is why I think the president should have more power, because voters elect the president based on a set of policy goals. Once elected, the president should have more ability to enact that policy agenda. Thanks.